that. So for the rest, I'm going to keep quiet. And Sebastiaan, the floor is yours.
Well, just to make very sure that I see these guys luring at the chat, but let's be sure that Jurgen picks the questions and forwards them to us. But anyway, this is going to be an open conversation. You're free to ask any questions during the session. Hopefully Jurgen can pick them up because we'll be in a sort of open conversation, a fireside chat. But I do encourage you to do so. So if you have any questions for our panelists, then do so. We're going to keep this session very light because I know that the next sessions are going to be very in-depth. That's why we have these industry legends that are very serious at heart, talking about these topics.
Legends.
I just want to start a little bit with some quick introductions in a different way. So everyone knows that you're what you've done before, and how long are you going to hold that cup for, Morten?
I'm branding for the mummies.
Okay, I can see that. So I just wanted to start quickly off with a different way and talk a little bit about reputation in the industry. So we're all having fun and jokes here, but we know that the game industry is a small family. On the top, there are a few guys running this industry, and we all know each other. But it's similar with building technology like ourselves. It's very important that you bring quality to the game, especially gamers. If you bring a game online and it crashes, you know what's going to happen on Twitter. They will absolutely destroy you, and they will hunt you for a lifetime. It's the same as with reputation of a person within the industry. And yourself have been in the industry for quite a while. And some people, if you would say the word Craig, they will absolutely tell me immediately, oh, Craig Fletcher, he's that and that and that guy. So me, myself, I moved to a small town. Me, myself, moved to a small town in Italy. And in this town, if something happens, people will know. And they will, if you do something bad, will hunt you for the rest of the life. So I just wanted to ask a quick question. So for instance, start with Craig.
Oh, no.
In this little town of the game industry, how would people describe you? How would they mark you? Like, what's haunting you in this industry?
Alcoholic. But I think that's endemic in the industry anyway. I think all of us. I mean, we all know GDC really stands for Get Drunk Conference. That's the thing. But no, yeah. So just basically, multiplayer side of things, running big LAN events. I have been called the wine guy before by some of my Scandic friends, because apparently I take an interest in wine, but I'm no expert. I would never claim to be an expert. But yeah, apparently someone said, oh yeah, you're that wine guy. So what, just because I talk about wine occasionally, I'm suddenly the expert? No. Anyway, that's probably from the LAN gaming and life of the party.
It's not wine, Y-N-Y-I-N-E. It's W-H-I-N-E.
I understand now. Cheers, Nick. Thanks for that's brilliant. But yeah, I hope to think I like to be life and soul of the party when I can. So I think maybe that. But anyway.
And Morten, I know that you're wearing a special ring. I don't know if you're wearing it today.
I should have slipped it on for today, of course, because it's been my secret industry insignia since I picked it up at ECTS in 1998. But it's a Panther ring. But you framed it nicely when you started. That kind of the video games industry. It's a serious business, but it is also a business run by a lot of people who originally, at least, came into it with a huge interest in the field and a huge interest for the games, the IPs, the gamers, all of the things that, at least originally when I started doing this back in the early 90s, was only done by strange little nerds. So we were a fellowship of nerds already. And I think we've built on that as we've seen the industry grow out and be more and more professional, go global. And I think we bring that with us as a quality when we bring this industry further. Treat everyone as friends, be a nice guy.
Yes, and then you'll be eventually accepted within the family, hopefully. And of course, Nick, I called you an industry veteran, but as you've shown on LinkedIn that you don't know how you got that title, but yeah, you did get that reputation. And I had here the hashtag boy band as a question, but maybe not the right. In your early days, you did other things before the industry, but.
Thank you. Yes, I used to be in a boy band. In fact, I used to do concerts with Take That.
But Nick, what's the difference? This is kind of a boy band. We're just a little bit older right now.
I was gonna, it's not a very good boy band though, is it? You know, we have more hair on our chins than we do on our heads. That's not the right way around. Yeah, I mean, the games industry, I've been talking to lots of people outside the games industry trying to understand why the games industry is so interesting for me. And I think it's actually because we help each other. We all have a kind of culture of we win together. You know, we're not quite so competitive. It's not if my game is successful, that's at the expense of your game. Actually, there's room for both of our games to be successful. So a lot of industries, you're very much competing against each other. You're trying to steal share. You're trying to steal market points. Actually, we still feel that we can grow. There are new opportunities. There are new spaces. Actually, if Morten does well, that's great for me. More people are kind of coming in and playing games and experiencing new things. So I think that's a fundamental part of our culture is we still help each other. And the fact is, you know, people on this call, we've all helped each other. We're carrying on helping each other, and we'll carry on. I'm sure we'll end up helping some of the people in the audience as well.
Well, that's an interesting point. So, of course, we're now we all talk about the different world after COVID-19 showed up. If you want to become part of join this industry, if you would like to start a new game, and the question is, how do you get on the radar nowadays? Like, are we still investing? Are we still looking for next games, or because we've seen numbers from EA Games going sky high at the moment. The industry is blown up in terms of the amount of gamers. But are we still accepting new games? Is it difficult for them to join this industry nowadays, or is it more easy for them to join this industry in your perspective? Craig, because I know you're in there as an early stage investor as well. So they must.
Well, absolutely. There's always, I mean, one thing we don't have a shortage of in this industry is creativity and finding new ideas, new genres. And even today we're seeing new games. Like we talk about Marshmallows later. I remember seeing that last year at I think it was GDC, and that was
I played the game. I loved on the Fridays.
Yes, it was brilliant. I unfortunately at the time I couldn't invest in it, but it looks really good. Yeah, absolutely. There's the biggest problem the industry faces, I think, in terms of that is discovery. I mean, we all know it's a massive problem. It hit mobile first, where I think at one point it's tens of games a day hitting the App Store. Now it's hundreds. Now it's probably even hitting thousands. Even on Steam these days, last time I checked, it was in the 20s. It got up to 30s yet a day. And also fragmentation of audience across all these different launchers and platforms. I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon, especially with the content war we've got going on right now. But there's still really good games out there to invest in. Sort of wearing the Nifty Games t-shirt, like one of the ones I'm happy at the moment is the NFL Clash, which those guys are doing. Sorry in the background if you can hear my daughter. We're going to have an episode like that BBC News guy where suddenly they crash in. It's like, hello. No, not going to have that. Yeah, so I think discovery is a key problem, but there's still, it's just harder because you're never going to, it has to be a portfolio approach because, you know, don't put all your eggs in one basket, but there are still great ideas out there. I particularly like indie, obviously, because I like to invest at an early stage. And we've seen some great games from Toadman has got some great games. I'm biased there as well as an investor in Toadman, but also like people like Raw Fury, for example, that are coming up with some great indie titles. So I think yes, but it's still a very challenging market, and discovery, having a decent route to market and know how you're going to reach your audience is essential if you're going to get investment and succeed.
So there's definitely still a need to discover new games and try to figure out where they're hiding. Absolutely. But in terms of investment, Nick, I know you review quite a bit of technology companies and game studios for VCs. Are they now holding on to let's look after our own portfolio first, or are they at the same time still investing heavily in game studios and reaching out to game studios?
Well, I mean, a couple of months ago, it was almost like there was a feeding frenzy. There was a lot of money. There was an awful lot of money being splashed around. Certainly, some funds have been thinking about what they're doing. I've heard comments like one of the investors in a fund said, well, you know, this was supposed to be for 3 years. Could you make it last for 5 years? The funds that were raising money, they're struggling to raise money right now. But the funds that have money, it's sitting in the bank. They've got to do something with it. There are a number of rounds that have closed already within this phase. I know one closed last week. I know one that I was involved in closed the week before. They may be slightly smaller than they were hoping to be, but there's still money there ready to be invested. It's, you know, it's 150 rather than 200K. It's 500 rather than 600K, but there's still a lot of people out there. And at the same time, there's a lot of people coming in from outside games because they're looking at games going, oh, everybody else is in trouble. You know, games is actually doing all right. This feels like a good place to put my money. This feels like a place which it's not recession proof, but it is. I mean, we've been through a number of recessions before, and the games industry has done okay through those recessions.
I would say not only okay. Every time it's come out a lot stronger. Every time. And I remember them since after the kind of the yuppie financing schemes in the late 80s and towards the dot-com fallout and the last recession in 2008. Every time there's been innovation and there's been new companies coming out and the industry has grown and grown and grown. And if there's anything that the recent kind of unfortunate situation that we all find ourselves in has shown people is that games is something that you can play and connect to people, and through all of things like this, we're bringing in more gamers playing games through this. So even though there might be a short-term bump in people being a little bit uncertain about where to place their investments, I think that it'll just open the field even more. So that within the next few years, we'll see even more innovation, even more great companies, and they'll always, it's almost like asking, is there still a need for music or is there still a need for movies? Of course there is. There'll be new games, new fantastic games, amazing games coming along all the time. And they will need investment, and they will need gamers, and they will need services to make them run and play as well as they can.
I think
it's an interesting point.
Sorry, an interesting part of that is the change of positivity towards games. You know, it was always, the conversation was always about addiction. It was always about screen time. It was always about, you know, my son plays Fortnite for 2 hours with his friends.
When we launched Grand Theft Auto, the first one that was pixelated top-down game in the Nordics, I was on radio and TV shows trying to defend games against angry police chiefs and everything who thought that it was appalling that we could make money on a game where you could shoot police officers.
I had a conversation with the WHO a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, shameless name drop. I apologize for that. But the interesting thing was that they started off the conversation. You know, they haven't always had a great relationship with games. At the same time, they recognized that, and they wanted help. They wanted a way of talking to a different group of people. They were recognizing actually a lot of good that is happening within games at the moment in terms of social connections, in terms of maintaining friendships. Hopefully we can live with that positivity for a little bit and not do something to destroy it. You know, let's please be sensitive to the fact that actually people like us right now. Enjoy that and let's not mess it up.
But that is also responsibility on all of us to kind of help out and bring that forward in the right direction, so that we step up and take that in the right direction and not look at just the short-term opportunities there.
Yeah. Well, you said something interesting, Morten. You talked a little bit about the past, how game studios are getting out of this stronger. I had a chat earlier with our Andrew Walker, who's been in the industry for quite a while as well. And he mentioned, well, from the big recession, we got free-to-play games. we're now in this whole new era of the coronavirus happening. In a way, this is accelerating what's happening in our space. It's forcing us to move forward. And indeed, what you're saying, other game studios will benefit from this, and the next big thing will come out. And at the same time, we have a train that just left the hype station. Before this, we had trains leaving with blockchain on it and esports. And the next one is heading towards the metaverse. So we have Tim Sweeney saying things like Fortnite is a game in December 2019, but ask me again in 12 months. So yes, I agree that this whole situation might accelerate things. So what do you guys think? What is a Fortnite game in 12 months? Where are we heading towards with the game industry? I know it's a broad topic, but it is something very big that's going to happen, and this will accelerate it massively. What are your thoughts on that, Morten, on that perspective?
Well, since
what is a game in 12 months?
Just to start with Tim Sweeney, kind of right before one of the last recessions, the dot-com bust, Unreal was the name of the game where I could get these amazing crossbow sniping kills, and Epic was most well known for their fantastic pinball games. So yes, things do change in this industry. That's 20 years ago. I think that what we've seen over the past few years, bringing in so many new gamers and diversifying what a game means, will create opportunities for so many different type of games. I think we're lacking in a vocabulary because we're constantly talking about games, which includes everything from kind of bejeweled clones like Candy Crush to kind of high-end full Hollywood productions like Red Dead Redemptions. They are all games, but they're played by different type of people and have completely different investment levels. And I think we'll see more and more diversified offerings towards different type of groups, so that there'll be opportunities to create great games in so many different genres to so many different audiences. It doesn't all need to be the same. And I think that'll just accelerate as we go forward.
So you say it will still niche up into certain groups, or will it become a bigger thing for all these niches to find a way into these platforms? Or
I think
games?
we'll get more and more like music, where there's kind of, yes, you can kind of bet on the next big Celine Dion album that might sell millions and millions and millions, or you can make a great jazz record that is loved by jazz fans everywhere. You probably won't be able to buy the house on top of Hollywood Hills for all of those bets, but that is not what it should be all about. It shouldn't always be about that.
Yeah. But if you look at the investment space, maybe Nick, investors always look at how can I get a return in 3 years for this specific game. So it's very focused on bringing out a specific music album or a movie. But if you look at the bigger things that are happening in technology, some things can take longer than that before you build a platform for a community with a specific need to do their thing on it. So yes, you can build a game with the current tools, but if you're building a bigger thing that is a connection between the real world, between shopping, etc. How do you deal then with those investors explaining, like, yeah, I'm building the next metaverse, I'm building a whole new interaction with real life and social media in a game, like what is the next Fortnite going to be? How do you then explain an investor, give me money for my cute game I need now, but the big mission is to become a metaverse? How do you do that? Like, how do you explain
My attraction to the metaverse was the reason I joined Improbable, and that was 6 years ago now. So I love the fact you're saying it's a new trend, is wanting to do the metaverse. I was either 6 years way too early or possibly far too late for the last cycle. We made a prototype of the Oasis. We worked with people who were making a prototype of the Oasis. And it was good. It was fun. It just wasn't the right time then. Maybe the right time is now. it takes a long time to get that tech ready. I'm working with, in fact, I think Dino's in the chat. I'm working with Dino at on a new platform, which is hopefully helping those kind of things to happen. The difficulty is guessing what's going to be the next new thing. You're not going to get it right. Craig mentioned a portfolio approach as investors. Most investors will not, the investors that went all in on VR didn't necessarily do that well by going all in on VR. That doesn't mean that VR wasn't the right thing to do. It's just actually, perhaps you should do some VR, perhaps you should do some AR, perhaps you should do some tech, maybe you should do some content. You want a balanced portfolio so you're not reliant on one success. Because as soon as you're reliant on one, there's a lot of luck that goes into a successful game. Fortnite was lucky. They've been brilliant in the way they've responded to it, but they happen to be in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. And you can't plan for that. You can just try and be in the right place.
Fortnite is such a great example, Nick, because you can go in and play Save the World. If you load up Fortnite, that is the original Fortnite that they plan to launch. So
and that went through so many iterations. What they started off working on Fortnite is completely different to even Save the World. The original designs are, it's a completely different game. It's a completely different team. They changed many times throughout it and ended up being in the right place at the right time to have huge global success. So you can't plan on that. And any investor that tells you that they know what's going to be the kind of the next new thing is not telling the truth.
Absolutely.
I suspect there are certain things I think are going to be interesting, and that's obviously what I'm doing. That's why I'm talking to Craig on a couple of things. But I'm not going to get it right.
But if you had to put all your money in one thing, like on one specific technology or idea or game, or maybe Craig, if you had to put everything online, what would you put it on? Like,
I'm just going to say I wouldn't.
That's an answer. Yeah.
That makes no sense. And I'd even go as far as to say I wouldn't go all in on one industry, and that includes the games industry. Because whilst the games industry is very strong, and I think people are always going to want to have entertainment and things like that, we're seeing it right now. It's an industry that's going to go great guns, and even the technology industry as a whole. It's good to have a bit of diversification, because we do occasionally have bubbles that burst. I mean, someone's mentioned esports. We should probably talk esports at some point in here too. But just quickly circling back onto the point you were just talking about there, people often ask me, how can I make my game a successful esport? How can I make my game a successful community game? And my response to that is, you don't. You lay the foundations, you lay the building blocks, you go as good as you nurture it. You plant the seeds and you water it as much as you can. But ultimately, it's the community that comes along and decides whether your game is going to be successful, they like it, or if it's going to be an esport. I mean, you can try and force it, and there's been elements of success in that, where people just pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into prize funds and things like that. But actually, the better way around is see if it takes first. Fortnite being a classic example. Iterate, follow what the community wants, listen to your community, be a community-led approach, and then build what they want, and then follow on from there. But in terms of what do I see being the next big thing, I'm a massive fan of multiplayer, always have been. I think single-player experiences have their place, but games are better played together. That's my personal opinion, at least. And I think that's where to place the bets. Shared experiences. Humans are social animals. We have a fundamental need to belong. So games that channel into that and experiences that channel into that. I think VR we've mentioned. I think VR's it was a technology without content. I think hopefully Half-Life Alyx has started to change that in terms of, it's you sort of trying to shift a new tool with no idea what to do with it. It takes time for the developers to adapt and find ways to creatively use that technology. I love the fact we talked about the Oasis. I mean, how many of us would love to live in Ready Player One right now? Certainly right now, where is the Oasis now? We could be using that for the last 8 weeks. We've all been stuck indoors. Exactly. We could be meeting in it. So absolutely, I think absolutely. So I think there's no one area I would bet on, and certainly the black swan events we've seen in the last 20 years of the games industry, whether that's Minecraft coming from nowhere, PUBG, then Fortnite coming from nowhere, it's very hard to predict these inherently unpredictable events. So you have to sow your seeds as far and wide as possible to make sure you're exposed to where the next one can come from. And you're gonna see 1,000+ games before you pick something that even comes close to the next Minecraft. There's a lot of, and that's not to say those 1,000 games aren't worthwhile. As Morten's great analogy is, you might have a game that's 10,000 people really love. You know what? That can be enough, and those 10,000 people will have a lot of joy from doing that. But it's not 10 million people. You know, so it depends what your motivations are. I remember games are an art form as well as a financial way of making money too. So let's not suppress the art for the love of the money.
Guys, I'm gonna jump in real quick now. I have a chance because we got about 5 minutes left, and I asked people
I see
in
a
the
lot
chat
of questions.
if they have any questions, and I see a couple. I see a couple. The first one I think was Amon Havers, and I'm gonna relay it right now. For now, you can hit the participate button as well if you want to and ask a question live. But for now, the first one I'm going to read is Amon's. Do you think there will be more crossovers with platforms like Netflix or other media giants like Disney, Amazon, or Tencent doing more things like recently happened, doing more things like recently happened with The Witcher? And would this possibly be something that could be accessed by indies when they have a good brand story to build on? And then I think he follows up with, could you give more insights into your opinion on this subject? I would love to learn more about gaming being part of mainstream culture. I think that's a very good question because I enjoyed The Witcher very much.
Sebastiaan, it was a very long question, so but just let me jump in with a very quick answer. Of course,
yeah, that's perfect.
Gaming has been part of mainstream media since the kind of late 70s. So there's been interactions back and forth between kind of movies, games, television, music, comic books, all over. So it's just accelerating because it's much easier now that there's more and more channels and there's more and more actors in that play. So yes, of course. Good stories, good IP can go across everything.
Yeah. There's a great article in the Financial Times which talks about the banks within Animal Crossing dropping their interest rates. This is on the FT. You know, it's
I need to read that.
I'm pretty certain the journalist. Oh, okay, no, I shouldn't say that. I've worked at BAFTA. So BAFTA is film, television, and games. The crossover between them, the idea of this film, TV, and games being three separate pillars, I don't think works going forward. I think we live in the world of grey areas between them. And it's, you know, to be honest, it's not me. My kind of truly creative days are possibly past me. It's the next generation coming in who are going to do something different. They're going to find different ways to tell their stories. And that's really exciting. You know, and those are the people that we as investors have got to find and back and make that assessment of kind of, actually, I think that one's going to work. And it's not based on detailed scientific analysis because you don't necessarily know what's going to be the new thing. You've got to guess. And, you know, I mean, all investors will tell you they invest on the basis of sound forecasts and, you know, great long-term views. Everybody invests on the basis of an emotional response. So the fact is, I like it, and then I justify it on the basis of here's a bunch of forecasts and so on. There are plenty of ways that you can stop it, but fundamentally, emotionally, if somebody comes to me going, I'm gonna create something that sits in the world between TV and games, and it's going to be an episodic narrative, and we're going to, I might just go, oh, that's just awesome, and then I want to help them.
All right, one more, guys, because we don't have a lot more time. Simon Obetko asks, how do you guys evaluate if a game has a potential to become the next big thing, or at least if it will have some success? How do you evaluate something like that? Okay, this game is not probably going to make it. Let's not waste our time on development. Yeah, how do you evaluate that?
Well, first thing for me is looking at the people in front of me. Can I work with these people? It's team first. Forget the game. Forget anything about it. If the team doesn't, these aren't people I believe in or could work with, this is stop that conversation right there. Because great teams can turn bad ideas great. Bad teams can turn great ideas into absolutely nothing. So it's all about the people first and foremost. But then once you get past that first phase, which is why like the first couple of minutes of meeting someone are most important, because it's like, can I work with this guy or girl? It's also, okay, and you start getting into the, is this a game I could play? Would I love playing this game? Because you know, is there a group, can I see a target market for this game? And then it's, have they thought how they're going to get that game to that market? So we talk route to market, and it's something that's missing from so many decks that I see, is there's no clearly defined route to market strategy. It's just, we're going to make a great game. Brilliant. So how's it not going to be the greatest game no one's ever heard of? You know, how are you going to get that game in front of people? And that might, even just having a slide saying, we're going to engage with these YouTubers, we're going to do this, we know these people are going to help us, whatever it is, we're going to spend this much on advertising. It's often one of the lines missing from slides is, how are you going to market this game? And it isn't thought of, I guess, because they think that traditionally was what the publisher would do, but we're not in that world as much these days. People want to self-publish as much as possible. So yeah, I just go through strategy, start with the people in front of me, concept, do I like it? And then ultimately in games, because it's an entertainment, it's as much a gut call as it is a brain call. Yeah, but you have to sort of balance those two. It's like, yeah. And if you're not passionate about the project, don't invest in it. That's my personal view. And I can't sell something I'm not passionate about. So if I'm talking to other investors or other funds, if I don't believe in the product myself, I just won't bother. It's no point. Do it willingly or not at all.
No, I agree. You have to be passionate about the things you do. Otherwise, it won't work. We got somebody who wants to join the panel. I will allow him or her in. Zhang Liang. I hope you have a question. And let's see if that works. And that would be the last question because we're over time already and we don't want to miss the next session. Yeah, I added.
Just in case, I'm sharing a Discord link to see if people want to continue after this, because I can see a lot of questions.
That's
yeah. Zhang, do you have a question for the panel? No question? Then I'm going to remove you again. Do you have a question? Last chance? No?
His connection is really bad.
Yeah, might be. I got one more short answer. Then because we're 2 minutes over. What's the view on pay to win versus free to play with cosmetic microtransaction as a revenue model in terms of potential for investment success? I know that might be requiring a long answer, but short one, 1 minute, and then we're gonna jump to the next session.
Personally, I wouldn't invest
free to play versus pay to win. Sorry, go ahead.
Personally, I don't invest in pay to win because I don't like it. It's an emotional response. I understand, culturally it works in certain areas, but it's not something that makes me happy, and I like to invest in things that make me happy.
Perfect short answer. I love that. Thanks. All right. Everybody watching, we still got a lot of people live. We're going to take a short break of a couple of minutes. The next session is going to be the second session, Tencent Cloud, A Journey East. So you can already go there. Just click sessions. We now enabled people talking to each other as well. So that is possible. If you click on somebody in the chat, you can directly send them a message. So A Journey East, the second Tencent session, that's where we're going now. And this session, therefore, is officially closed. Thanks all of you guys. It was a great session. Guys. I enjoyed it very much.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Excellent. Thanks and bye-bye.
See you next session.